Oh my goodness. It is time. It is time for little live stream action. We got Howie. We got Tech for Your Needs. We got Moon Man in the chat. Rockmirth was here. How's everybody doing? What is going on, good people of the internet? Back for a second Tuesday in a row. 2 in a row. I'm on a roll. I got a video out yesterday. Feeling good about it. And yeah, today was an eventful day. An eventful day when it comes to things. Geology Dude is here saying howdy to you, my friend. Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy day. I don't know. I'm just kind of, well, not crazy. I did take a nap, so I guess that makes it not exactly crazy. But when do I not take a nap? I don't know. People have got me confused. Well, people have now got me thinking that I've got this long COVID thing. Although, to my knowledge, I have never had the COVID, long or otherwise. Eugene, good to see you. Yeah, so I don't know, but I I look at the long COVID symptoms and I think, yeah, that kind of sounds like it. It's been a week or 3 or 4 or something like that. But I'm getting back to it. I'm doing the live streams. I'm doing the videos. I'm gonna kind of go through newsy type stuff here in the stream. But feel free to ask questions if you have any questions. You want to talk about anything? You know, we're still doing it kind of loose and free, as it were. So yeah, feel free to ask questions. But yeah, the one thing that I started today that was kind of interesting is that our friends over at Sonos have released 2 new speakers today. 2 new speakers: the Sonos Era 100, the Sonos Era 300, and so the Sonos Era 100 is basically like an updated version of the Sonos Play 1 and then Play 1 and then just 1 and then 1 SL. So it's kind of an updated version of that. It does have kind of stereo speakers, 2 tweeters that point into stereo direction. So it's kind of an update of that. It has Bluetooth. I know there'll be many people out there who are excited about that. It has an aux-in USB-C button. You can either do auxiliary in with a turntable or something like that, or you can do auxiliary Ethernet if you want to hardwire. But the catch is that while it's auxiliary input USB-C to 3.5 millimeter jack, only the Sonos thing will work. I think it's like $15 to get the Sonos branded dongle. It's another dongle, people. But that's cool because there's only one of the Sonos speakers that ever actually had auxiliary input before, and that was the Sonos 5, and the others just didn't have any way to get anything else into it. So they've started doing Bluetooth as well as this auxiliary input. But the big news about the Sonos is this Sonos Era 300, which I just have this, what is it, Tech Radar? Yeah, Tech Radar article up here for visual purposes mostly. I haven't actually read their article because I bought both the Sonos Era 100 and 300 today, and I spent the good part of the afternoon writing my script for sort of my first impressions, as well as listening and getting a sense of what's going on there. So it's all good. It's all good. I haven't done the compare versus the Sonos Play 1, compare versus the HomePod, compare versus, all the other stuff. I haven't done that part yet, but I will say that the 100 does sound really good, as does the Play 1. And so I'm anxious to hear what it sounds like compared to it, because they're not wildly different, but the 100 does seem maybe a little crispier. And it's $249, the 100, which is right on par with what the Sonos ones have cost historically. And then the 300 has the Dolby Atmos spatial audio. It's got 4 tweeters, and I think it's got six speakers total. And so it's got 1 up-firing speaker and 2 side-firing speakers, and then a tweeter that fires toward the front, as well as woofers to the side that kind of fill in. So it's pretty good. I mean, I was not expecting much because I haven't really had very much going on that really gave me that much of a of a feeling of spatial audio has been hit or miss for me. Let's say that. And so I didn't expect much from the 300, but in my limited listening for about an hour, 45 minutes, something like that today, going through my normal playlist of stuff that I test headphones and speakers with, concentrating specifically on Dolby spatial audio tracks from Apple Music. I guess spatial audio is not Dolby Atmos. It's Dolby Atmos. It uses the Dolby Atmos technology. And so I just, I went through rock, pop, soft, loud, et cetera, et cetera. And the Sonos 300 actually does a really good job of making it sound like there's a three-dimensional space around you. It doesn't give you like everything like in high, like the height speaker doesn't really give you the same experience that you would have if you had like a whole component system Dolby Atmos thing going, but it does do a nice job. And I was surprised. Like I was sitting there listening to spatial audio, thinking to myself, like I could enjoy just sitting here listening to spatial audio with this speaker. And it's not a very big speaker either. I'd say it's maybe 11 inches wide and probably like 4 inches or 5 inches deep. So it's very compact. It's got some heft to it, and it kind of, well, it also has Bluetooth. It also has the auxiliary input. It has microphones on it that you can turn on and turn off, and then you can mute and all that kind of stuff. Klipsch is going nuts on ads. I haven't seen any Klipsch stuff recently. Moonman says Klipsch is going nuts on the ads. Look at this. I can put it into the broadcast now. Oh man, I'm back to full strength. Klipsch is going nuts on ads. Klipsch is, I mean, I love Klipsch speakers. But so far I haven't, the HomePod Gen 2 is very nice. And it kind of, for me, it beat the Sonos Play 1. I only have the Gen 1. I don't have the Play 1 Gen 2. It beat that, but now we've got Sonos firing back. And this is the first of their speakers that has had the Dolby Atmos. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. They actually recommend, so if you have a Sonos Arc or a Beam 2, those are the 2 sound bars that have Dolby Atmos. If you have a Beam 2 or a Sonos Arc, they say you can buy two of the brand new Era 300s and then have like a surround sound system. But the downside of the Era 300s is that they cost $450 a piece. And so that is not cheap. When you compare it to even something like the Amazon Echo Studio, you can get the Echo Studio and the Echo Studio Sub for less than that, I'm pretty sure. I haven't actually heard the Echo Studio, but people tell me that it sounds pretty good. But honestly, if you're getting the Era 300, you're looking for something that's pretty pretty hi-fi. I would say that this is the speaker for the person who wants to have the latest and greatest sort of, I don't know how to categorize what level of hi-fi Sonos is because it's kind of its own thing. Scott Woodford bringing in the $4.99 super chat. Thank you, sir. I got to get there we go. Thank you, Scott. I have 300 paid for. I have the Era 300 paid $400 for it. Oh man. Yeah. I just saw that they had it in the Best Buy today. And so I just ordered it and went to pick it up. I honestly don't. I've got so many speakers now. I honestly don't know if I have a reason to keep them, but yeah, but I may swap them out for what I've already got. The thing that's interesting about the era is that it codifies it. It's now somebody else has put spatial audio, like a big player has adopted spatial audio. And my whole thing with spatial audio was it's all fine and good, but if you can only experience it through Apple products, um, then it's not really a viable medium. You know, it's not really a viable option for the majority of people if you can only experience it through AirPods and HomePods and that kind of thing. But now that Sonos has adopted the spatial audio, it might have more legs than I thought it would be. Tana So Lit is in the house. Good to see you, sir. Sea Lions Man 67. Good to see you as well. Chris Hoffman says, I'm looking forward to the review. We'll start with one, though, because of the high price. Add my Playbase and 2 Sonos Ones to my TV. Yeah. It really is a pretty nice... I still have the Sonos Beam Gen 1. I didn't buy the Gen 2. I probably should have. I'm curious about it. Because right now in our main TV room where the family watches TV, we have an LG surround system that has Dolby Atmos, has 2 side speakers and then a subwoofer. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's nowhere near, I got it on sale, but I think it originally retailed at like $900 or something ridiculous. But yeah, I'd love to get the Beam 2 and see how that does just by itself. I think a great like small footprint surround sound system for somebody who doesn't want speakers all over their room would be the Beam 2, and then they put out the mini sub that's only like $400. So for $1,000 you get less than $1,000. You get the Beam 2 and you get the Sonos mini sub, which I haven't tested yet either. And that would really be, I think, a very good like small footprint but big sound system for TV and music. I mean, the Beam the original Beam wasn't great for music, but it was good enough for music if you're just listening to it at like, you know, if you're just casually listening to music as you're going around, which I think Sonos really is one of the best at, you know, having that whole home audio where you can just kind of have it going. Not many people are going to sit down and use Sonos speakers as like critical listening stuff, unless you've got like the Sonos 5s or something like that. But the Sonos 5s are like $550 a piece. Sometimes you can find a pair of them for $1,000 or less when they're on sale. So I'm gonna spend some more time with the Sonos 100 and Era 100 300 tomorrow, and then I will see what it all turns out to be. So yeah, I was generally impressed with the 300. The 100, you know, I'll have to compare it to other things to really get a sense. But the 100 and the 300, I think both of them would benefit from even just the mini sub. I don't see spending the $700 that it would take to get the regular Sonos sub. I have a feeling that the mini sub is, you know, the beginning of that older sub going out. But yeah, so the video, I'm going to film it tomorrow. Maybe I'll have it edited by tomorrow. Maybe I'll have it edited the next day. We'll see. But I'm kind of excited about it. So I didn't think it. I honestly didn't think it would be very good. Now the next thing that I have on my list of stuff to talk about is AI. AI. I thought this was a very interesting statistic that I had seen other places, and I just decided I just saw it here. Yeah. So AI could replace the equivalent of 300 million jobs. I think that might be low, because I just used AI for the first time today, and I have to admit that it is kind of insane what you can do with AI. So I use Notion for my script writing and organization and all that other stuff. So I started writing my Sonos Era 100 300 everything you need to know kind of thing here, and there's so there's so much you can do. But see, the thing is, like, if you just tap in here, look, you can press space for AI, and then when you press space, the AI will just write, or it'll summarize what you've got on the page and or translate it to different languages. You can improve your writing. So I actually ran this through Improve My Writing, and I didn't see a lot that changed, but that's because, I have a master's in the writing. So, but fix spelling and grammar, make it shorter, make it longer, simplify the language, which is something that's good. Most people, the general people in the world, they read at like a 5th or 6th grade level. So they say that everything that you write that's for general consumption should always be pitched at that level. You can also turn it into a blog post, outline it, essay, blah blah blah. I tried asking it to write me an outline for a video about the Sonos Era 100 and 300, and it gave me some bullet points that were pretty general. But if you just wanted to get started, it's definitely a way that you could use it. So I was pretty impressed with what it can do in Notion. I haven't used ChatGPT or ChatGPT 4 yet, but I am pretty impressed. Now, the thing that's really impressive to me about it is that as a solo entrepreneur, this is kind of the kind of thing that will save me a lot of time that it really will. Like, if I need a bunch of ideas, it'll give me a bunch of ideas. If I need an outline of something, it'll give me an outline. These are things that so having worked in like print and publishing and that kind of stuff, these are things that I would have paid other people to do in the past, and now the AI can just spit it out. The thing about AI is that you have to know enough to know if the AI is wrong, and you have to be able to like parse the AI thing, whatever it spits out. You have to be able to parse it into your own language, because I think that eventually it's going to become pretty apparent who can write and who's using AI. It's very interesting to me. I mean, Franklin says, I'm okay with some jobs, but not most. We don't want a Skynet situation. The thing is, and I agree with you that some jobs are fine. I mean, this has been something that people have been worried about in manufacturing, how robots are taking over the jobs, and then what happens when, this is a big topic of conversation right now, what happens when we can have driverless trucks on the road, right? So trucking is one of the biggest employers in the country, in the United States, and also just incredibly important to like the general population's job opportunities, as well as just making everything work the way that it's supposed to work. And if we went totally like driverless trucks, it would be much more efficient. And I think that eventually it would end up being better for the businesses that were using the trucking, but it would take away the jobs of how many people? So many people, drive either long or short-term like trucking routes, and it would just really destroy. I mean, yeah, but there's some things that skilled labor. Like Tana says, I don't want an AI barber. But there are some things that, skilled labor, things that it's going to take a human being. Like, I don't think an AI could teach a class. An AI could tell you what to teach, right? But the whole thing has to be parsed through a person's interaction with students, et cetera, et cetera. So, but the long and short of it is, between AI and all of this other, automation stuff, is that at some point in the not too far away future, there are going to be fewer and fewer jobs, and still the same number of people who need to work. And that's one argument that people who talk about, like, universal income and that kind of stuff, they say eventually, like, people won't have anything to do. So once we start going in that direction, there'll be other things that open up. I mean, you're never going to have like an AI plumber come and unplug your drain, but there will be different kinds of opportunities. I mean, once that happens, though, it's going to be very interesting, because one of the biggest growth industry in the United States is the service industry, right? Whether it's hotels or food service or any of those kinds of things, service industry jobs are where jobs are growing, and it's been that way for a decade plus. So it's something that's, as we go into I think we're past the information age and we're into, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Like the automation age or something? I don't know what this next phase with AI and autonomous vehicles and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what you would want to call that, but I really think that once we get into the meat of what's after the information age, it's going to be a much different equation in terms of like man and woman power versus job opportunities. Alan says, don't give them any ideas. This stuff is really fascinating to me. Just when I saw this headline that said 300 million jobs could be eliminated through the use of AI, I was just kind of like, that. I mean, 300 million worldwide. So we've got, 350 million people in the United States, maybe going on 400 million people in the United States. But worldwide, 300 million out of 7 billion doesn't seem like a ton. But at the same time, I mean, the jobs that AI might be taking over might not impact certain areas of the world as much as they might impact others. AI psychologist, man, I could use an AI psychologist. Like, if the AI psychologist like really got to know me and then could just like in the morning tell me all the things that I need to hear so that I could not be crazy for that day, that would be great. That would be great. X-Plumber says, hoping that AI will set the record straight and cut through the false BS and real-time fact-checking to keep everyone honest. I think eventually it will. I mean, when you think about, okay, so here's a job that will eventually be gone. Statistician in broadcasts for live sports, right? Eventually, an AI will be listening to the broadcasters, and then the AI will continue to like populate the statistics that they need for whatever they're talking about. And, there have been people who have always been part of those broadcasts who have done that job kind of manually. So it's going to be one of those things that, does change quite a bit. Tana says, for smart people, it'll be even easier to make money. I think that's true in the short term and the long term. I mean, if you go on YouTube or on Google and just search AI creator, right? then there's already a glut of creators on YouTube who've already glommed on to the fact that you can start doing stuff. You can use this AI to generate more content. And, not to say that I would ever feel comfortable just like having AI generate content and then just put that content into the world. But for that initial generation of ideas, right? Instead of taking a note about, I want to make a video, video about obsolete Apple products, right? And then instead of just having that as the note, then I could have, I could ask the AI to just give me suggestions for things to include in a video about obsolete Apple products. In fact, I did that today a few different times to see how different its answers would be. And it gave a lot of really interesting answers, one of which being everything from the Newton all the way back to like the original Apple TV. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was Apple trying to do like a TV and a computer but I don't think it ever came to light. So it got pretty deep into some really, really nerdy, like almost unknown Apple products. Of course, it had iPod in there and that kind of thing, and I think everybody would, I think everybody would love to see that. But yeah, it's gonna be something that can really get interesting. Franklin says Apple and Google are about to make AI psychologist subscription service with HomePod and Google Nest. You've heard it here first. Honestly, if you would have told me, say, 15 years ago that Apple would offer a fitness program that you could get into, and there are things that Apple already offers that wouldn't have made sense 15 years ago. I mean, just because of bandwidth. So I don't know if it's going to be psychologists, but it will. I think eventually these AI will become so familiar with the ins and outs of our daily lives because it's going to be built into every device that we have. I think eventually we're going to see that AI starts to try and like help us with our moods and try to like make our lives a little bit easier, taking away, making to-do lists for us just based on what the AI has heard us talking about during the day. It makes me think of stuff like Fahrenheit 451. Both in the movie and in the book, there's a scene where the wife of the head fireman, and I'm not thinking of the character's name right off the top of my head, but she had like all these screens would come up, and she had all these pills that she would take, and she would ask the screen to do things for her. So it was kind of already like what we're talking about, where the entertainment system was pervasive throughout everything. And I think we're going to get there probably sooner than later. If Apple TV remains a stalwart thing, or smart TVs with Google Android TV, then I can see how the AI starts to really get smarter. But oh yes, Montag, thank you, CNY Photos and Video, bringing me the name that I needed. Oh man, I love that book. I read that book I think I was maybe like, I was in college, but I just remember it was a snowy weekend, and I was with my girlfriend, then wife, at her parents' house, and I read that book in a day. It's a very short book, but I just read it start to finish in that day, and it was, for a book that's almost 60 years old at this point, it's pretty frightening how, I mean, especially now when you hear the conversations that are out there about banning books and all of this other stuff, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. Yeah, it the one great thing about science fiction is that science fiction has always explored the topics of the day, or the sort of subconscious fears that we have, and just always done that in such a great way. Tana's so lit with the super chat of $7. Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Says another great stream. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So to me, it's, yeah, science fiction always does a great job of it. I mean, I've talked about the idea that our fascination post 9/11 with zombies has a lot to do. I mean, zombies were, when the idea of a zombie, which has been around for a while, but then the modern idea, the George Romero idea of a zombie, right? Where it's just this brainless thing that wanders around just trying to find food. It's partially our fear of becoming part of the background and not an individual. The people who try and escape the zombies are the people who are trying to keep their individualism and trying to not to become pod people, as in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But it's also, I think, post 9/11, there was the idea of like, well, what if civilization crumbled around us? Like, what would it be like? And zombie fiction and TV and that kind of thing gave us kind of a safe space to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, the zombie idea is that mindless follower thing, and we've kind of with the way that we ingest television and then the internet, social media, et cetera, we've kind of become really prone to this bizarre group speak. And I think we end up seeing it a lot more around election time. The fact that we know that the Russians like basically tampered with the 2016 election, and there was all kinds of stuff that happened, especially like social media with Facebook and engineering emotional responses to like engineering emotional responses. In fact, with the TikTok discussion that's been going on, and there have been studies that show that TikTok is different. It surfaces different kinds of content for people in different countries. And so what I read was that in the United States, the TikTok app tends to surface more like negative emotion, controversial type stuff. I don't know if it's like across the board, but maybe for people. But anyway, that like it's more prone to surface that kind of stuff. And then in China, it's more prone to surface more positive stuff. Now, is that because China as a nation wants to placate their, have a calm citizenry? And there have been studies and people have looked at this, and the way that the algorithm works on TikTok is really, really effective, but also super shady in how it like emotionally manipulates you to just keep flicking to the next video, right? And so that's the whole thing. The whole thing that we're talking about here is like, okay, so if TikTok is so good at manipulating emotions and feelings and ideas and just sort of flooding people with that stuff, and in one way or another, the Chinese government is part of TikTok. That they're in some way, as most businesses are, if I understand correctly, in the Chinese market, connected to that business. Then, I mean, that's why we don't have Huawei and Xiaomi phones and all that kind of stuff, because they were too, whether or not it's true. they were seen as sort of potential Trojan horses for Chinese information farming. And it's the same with the reason that the 5G networks grew so slowly was that we were afraid to buy Chinese 5G parts and towers and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things where I think it's super interesting that the algorithms of YouTube and Google and Facebook and TikTok, all of these things are almost autonomous on their own. I mean, I honestly don't think that if you went to YouTube headquarters and were like, you have to tell me, how does the algorithm work? Why does it do this? How does it do it? I don't think that anybody could tell you. I think the algorithm is now like somehow aware. It's alive in there, just doing its thing to a certain degree. But I mean, that's the fear that everybody has of AI. Once the AI becomes sentient and recognizes that human beings are a threat to the survival of AI, then it will weaponize itself to eradicate the human beings, which is, of course, the narrative of Terminator and everything else. Whether or not that's the case, I think somewhere in between, we're going to see somewhere in between a big shift in what's valued in the workplace, and how AI impacts jobs. I mean, just using Notion AI today and recognizing how it could totally eliminate the need for me to have, like, from a writing standpoint, an assistant editor who generates content ideas and then flows them to me so I can then parse them out and turn them into content, which is how it's always worked. I used to work at this, it was a weekly mailed newsletter called Facts on File. And you could buy it as a hard copy as well. But Facts on File, my job was to get up at 6 a.m. and get the 12 or 13 newspapers from the newsstand where they bought them, and then carry those newspapers to the Facts on File office, and then start going through them myself. The editor would also go through them and circle in like grease pencil articles that she wanted pulled out, and then I would physically rip out these articles and then put them in her inbox, right? And now, especially with what AI can do, like, there's no need for that job. And then the fact that AI can, like, if I wanted to go here, I can brainstorm ideas. The idea that I could summarize the whole thing, or I could translate it, or I could find action items within the thing that I already wrote is crazy. So it's going to be very interesting. DePoet says that he's ready. He welcomes our future AI overlords. You know what? As long as the future AI overlords, send food to my house or give me money to go buy food or whatever, and they keep the YouTube videos and the internet streams going, then, I'll just sit here, and this is what I've been doing for the past several years. I'll just sit here and get fat and and live a life of the mind. That's my plan. So Geology Dude says, true about TikTok, but YouTube Shorts and Facebook video feeds are very similar. No, they are. Absolutely. And there's a reason for that. I mean, everybody's looking to build the better mousetrap, right? And for the longest time, YouTube, when it came to video, had the best mousetrap. They had the algorithm that served the stuff that the people wanted to watch, and it just kind of kept doing that and kept getting kept changing, getting better, whatever you want to call it. But when TikTok came along, all of a sudden, like, I remember when TikTok first started out and people were talking about like 30-second, 3-minute, 1-minute videos. I'm like, well, what kind of value can you possibly get out of that? And then the next thing you know, we're all like, just like flicking through, and it's like Pavlovian. We can't stop. It's dopamine hit after dopamine hit. You just can't stop. And so YouTube looks at that, and they had to say, okay, this is not going away. We have to find a way to compete with this. I think still that YouTube has a better infrastructure overall to maintain and adapt to any market change or upheaval or anything like that, because they have a good foundation of what the company is. So I think that shorts are interesting compared to TikToks, because shorts are still just a minute long, and they are kind of bite-sized pieces of content that can go very well with long-form content. I mean, I don't know. Can you build on YouTube a really successful channel that has legs and the ability to scale and grow, that is only built on short content? I honestly don't know. I mean, that's YouTube's bread and butter has been long form content, and there are ways to make long form and short term content work together for one another. And YouTube is uniquely positioned to make that happen. I think Facebook/Instagram has just never been able to. They're like the kid who goes out and buys like the super popular shoes right after everybody else already got them and they're ready to move on to the next thing. You know, Instagram used to be about photos, but now it's just all videos. But, you know, they were still late to the party. And so Instagram Reels are now, you know, they move over to Facebook, and all of that stuff cross-populates. And it's just really bizarre. So I don't know. It's very interesting. So there's Libraries here. Says, hey, Jason, how you doing, man? How you doing? Good to see you. I'm here. I'm doing my thing. The last little piece of news that I wanted to talk about today, and I'm interested to see what people think about this, is this: Apple has introduced this like pay-as-you-go thing, which I guess exists in different markets for Apple overseas, but now you can use Apple Pay and pay part of it. So yeah, so here you got a payment of $415, and then you pay $316. So it's kind of like I guess it's like, what is it? What is that? They mentioned here Klarna and Affirm, but there's no connection to outside organizations. So the Apple payment thing is not connected to your credit score or anything like that. Is this something that people would use? Is this something? I mean, is there a hidden, deep-seated flaw in this that I'm not seeing? I mean, besides the fact that in a perfect world, you would buy what you can pay for, right? I mean, but then credit cards. So is this something that, like, anybody out there in chat, is this something you would be interested in using? I don't know. You can apply for loans larger than $1,000, but have to link a debit card. No fees or interest payments. Won't hurt your credit score, as Apple says it won't share data with third-party marketers. It's part of the iOS 14 and iPadOS 14, which just launched yesterday officially. So they're not letting everybody do this. It's sort of in a beta now. That's like an invite only thing. But yeah, it's coming. And just like the Apple Card, I I don't know exactly how I feel about this. The Apple Card seemed like a really great idea, which it was. You know, if you want to use it you could use it as your credit as your cash source, your credit card, and then as long as you pay it off, you're good. And you can also finance purchases of more expensive Apple gear, et cetera, et cetera. All that stuff is great, but man, if you're like, you know, some people I know, myself, and you end up carrying a balance, then it's just like any other credit card. It's painful, but I don't know. Pay as you go. I've never tried Affirm or Klarna or any of those things because they freak me out somehow. I don't know why. But yeah, it's very interesting. So Apple Pay as you go as a new feature. So I guess it came out at WWDC last year. So yeah, Mark Gurman heard that it was pushed back due to technical challenges. Company hasn't officially explained the wait. Staggering payments are, so Franklin says, I can't see what's in it for Apple except being able to harvest more people's data. I guess they figure getting more customers. I think that's maybe part of it, but I think also what it does is it takes these purchases out of the realm of these third-party entities and keeps them all in-house with Apple, right? And so if you end up with more people using a service like Apple Pay later, then that's like, when you think of it from an ecosystem standpoint, I mean, this, like, they've laid the foundation, and now they're just dropping the bricks one upon another into this ecosystem that, I mean, once you get your finances totally lumped in there with all the other stuff that you do, I mean, it seems like Apple's looking to become even more of a closed ecosystem than it already is. So, and if it's more convenient, maybe it does get them more customers, and it definitely gets more data. So that much is true. Alan Mobley says, I pay my phones outright in cash. I wouldn't use that personally. Apple Card costs Goldman Sachs a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, I know people, people who buy a lot of Apple products who use their Apple Card not just to buy the Apple products, but they use them on for daily purchases, and they build up Apple Cash, and then they can spend that, and it does accumulate if you use the card often, but you have to treat it kind of like an American Express card, where at the end of every month you're expected to pay off the whole bit, right? Once you get into financing things through the Apple Card, that's where it gets kind of sneaky. Every time I see my Apple Cash balance, I have hundreds of dollars in there. Yeah, I know. If you're making big purchases and you're doing it on a regular basis, then Apple Cash is pretty compelling, and you can always, well, I know that the poets, you probably use Android more often than an iPhone, but the thing that's interesting is you could do all of your daily stuff with cash using Apple Cash and never have to touch your actual bank account. And yeah, it's like I have no, DePoe says, I have no idea how they're making any money off me. It's not possible. I don't really know either. Although I will say that for everybody like yourself who's probably keeping up with that bill and paying it off and doing the thing that you're supposed to do, there are people who are carrying a balance. And once you start carrying that balance and the interest rates start to accrue, and next thing you know, you've got several $1,000s worth of stuff on there, and you're paying $75 a month in interest fees. I mean, I think that's the way most credit card companies end up making most of their money. I am not a financial guru of any kind, but that to me is just what it seems like. So I don't know. At the end of the day, like, yeah, Apple, once you can get into people's wallets, I mean, literally get into people's wallets, and you can offer people compelling features like Apple Cash or Apple Pay Later, then all of a sudden there's nothing else out there, right? Like you're just in the walled garden, and you stay there, and Apple makes it more and more attractive for you to be there, which is what they want to do, and what they've done really successfully up to this point anyway. So I don't know. It is okay. So one way that I do this, a similar thing, is there are a couple of music websites, Zounds and Sweetwater, that allow you to, without applying for a credit card or anything like that, they allow you to do monthly payments on gear. So if you want to buy something that's $1,000 and you want to space that out, then it's no interest. And if you can spread it out to like 6 months or 3 months, 4 months, 12 months, whatever, then, $1,000 worth of stuff, you're paying like $80 a month. And if you do it over 12 months, so I do that sometimes, but yeah, one day, so Sweetwater, yeah, 1-day shipping, and yeah, Sweetwater is kind of the Apple of music gear retailers at this point. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. X-Plumber says he doesn't want to go to a financial advisor because you don't want to hear stop buying things. This makes it easier to buy things. Yeah, I know, man. I know. I've had to have this talk with myself about the not buying things. and yeah, I mean, I bought the Sonos speakers today, but had I not planned on doing some extensive coverage on the speakers for the channel, I would not have bought them. Which, I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of cutting off the dopamine supply. Trying to get out of that like shopping cycle where everything just is a dopamine hit that makes me feel better. Zounds, Chris Hoffman asks, what's the other besides Sweetwater? It's Zounds. It's Zounds. They're a much smaller business than Sweetwater, and you can like they're pretty personable. So I've worked with them, just bought some high ticket stuff that allowed me to pay it over time without having to get into using a credit card and that kind of stuff. So, but it can get out of hand if you got suddenly you've bought things from like 2 or 3 different stores and you're paying 2 or 3 different bills every month. It can get a little crazy. But yeah, Tana says, I want that manly preamp though. I know once you start thinking like, oh, I can spend up to $3,000 and space that payment out over however many months, then then you start to get into you start to get yourself in trouble. Zay,
'Cause I don't know. 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 I don't know.
Gesund, I'm probably butchering that name, asks, can you review cheaper budget tech for those of us without a large bank balance? Man, I don't have a large bank balance because I buy all this expensive crap. But yes, point well taken. I think it would be really good for more people to cover more budget friendly stuff. I know that I've done it, and other people in terms of like headphones and that kind of thing. There are some companies out there that people cover on a regular basis, and more of the companies that were kind of like, knockoff, not so great headphones have really improved the quality of their stuff over time. The thing that's hard about budget stuff from the point of view of trying to create content for a channel or anything like that is there's so much more budget stuff out there, and it's so much more difficult to know what's a quality company, what's a quality product, and and then you want to work with that company, or you want to buy that stuff. But what if the company stops making the thing, or they go under, or any of that kind of stuff? So from a programming standpoint, it's harder to do it's harder to do a lot of budget stuff. I mean, not to say that you should only review $1,000 phones or something like that, and I know that a lot more people have started covering sort of mid-range phones all the way down to phones that are, smartphones that are like a couple of $100. Those have gotten a lot better over the years. So I know that there are some people who are doing it. It's just really hard as a one-man operation to be able to parse through all of the different lower cost stuff and figure out what are people going to want to know about 3 months from now, and what's just going to be like a product that goes away and no one ever talks about. So that's kind of the challenge that I've experienced over time. But I do like to do, roundups of like gaming headsets or something like that in different price categories, like $100 or less, $50 or less, 250, 500, so I like to spread those things out. But again, the more you do of that stuff, the more time and money you end up spending yourself. So, well, that's all I had to talk about tonight. So I open the floor up now to anything that anybody else wants to talk about. You can have affordable Wednesdays where you pick something that you ran across at Walmart or Target that's worth looking into. Yeah, I mean, I think it would have to be from a larger retail outlet. It's hard to do on Amazon, because on Amazon there are like 50 different versions of the same thing, right? Literally the same thing with a different company's name on it, because it's just all off the shelf stuff. Or Best Buy. Frank makes a good point. Best Buy could also work. Yeah, one thing that I know, let's see, Random Frank P has done a lot of like cool tech under $50 that he does, I think, once a month. And I know those videos have done well for him. So there are ways to make it happen. The Poets asks, are you planning on going to any events? PAX East, E3, or PAX West, E3, TwitchCon, CES 2024. I mean, I want to. I definitely want to. Especially, CES is probably like on the top of my list, just because I've been there in the past and I haven't done E3 or any of the more gaming related stuff. But I really want to. This past year, I think we had just moved into our new house and still hadn't sold our old house, so it made it difficult to sort of plan anything like to spend that money. But hopefully by the time we get to the last quarter of the year, I should be able to at least do CES. Last year I actually had a sponsor that was going to bring me and put me up in a hotel and the whole deal. And like a month before CES, that just fell through randomly. They just decided they weren't going to do it, which kind of sucked because then it would have been like scramble to find the money and just more expensive. Oh, we got a super chat, £5 super chat from Zay. Thank you, man. Says, thanks for answering my question. Your voice sounds better. Hope you're on the road to recovery. Yes. I am feeling better, for sure. I'm still having the weird, I just get randomly tired. And I think, the more people I talk to, the more I'm kind of convinced that it's this long COVID thing. But I've never, to my knowledge, had the COVID. So, but all of the just random tiredness and that kind of thing seems to be the same. Larry says, if you did something with Rick Beato, YouTube would explode. Rick Beato is very interesting. I mean, I like his stuff a lot. He knows his stuff like incredibly well. And he's got a lot of experience in teaching and that sort of thing. But I think Rick Beato and I are probably like two very big personality type people. And it may just be like, two magnets just sort of the wrong ends of two magnets trying to force themselves together. I don't know. I mean, I would love to meet and talk with him and see if there was anything to do. DePoet says, leverage the 202K subs and market for many different sponsorships. Yeah, you're right. And honestly, like I just haven't done the legwork on those things that I need to do to make it work. And that's one of the things that this year I'm working toward doing more of. Because there's a lot more that I could be doing to leverage the channel and sort of getting out there more, but I just haven't done it. I don't have a good excuse why, except for like, there was the pandemic, and then just life just seemed to come at me in like every time it seemed like things were going to get normal and I was going to be able to like settle in and really focus on doing business. Then there would be just some life event. But that's just how it is. I mean, but at this point, like, as long as I start working more intelligently, leveraging the AI, I can be the AI's overlord right now and make the AI work for me, which gives me then more time to do that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I want to be able to do. And I just need to be more organized. I'm not a very organized person when it comes to long-term. Short-term, I can come up with ideas. I can write, I can film, I can do whatever, and I can do a lot of really good work in a compact time frame and organize all that shit in my head and make it all work. But I'm not as good at, seeing 3-month chunks at a time and planning that, if that makes any sense. And I mean, they say knowing is half the battle. I know that's one of my problems. So I'm working on getting it better. And I'm working with somebody now on sponsorship stuff. So it will be easier to get that stuff going with another person helping out with bringing that stuff into the channel. So, that's the plan at this point, is to just try and start working from there. I mean, I honestly I for the last 2 or 3 years, because I was doing the Amazon live streaming thing and other stuff like this, I just wasn't as focused on the YouTube channel as I had been in the past, because I had to, like, I wasn't making my money from YouTube as much as I was from Amazon and, that end of stuff. But now the Amazon thing is kind of fallen to the wayside. They've changed some things in that program. So it's the perfect opportunity to turn back and refocus on YouTube and just sort of use YouTube again as like the foundation to build other stuff. The biggest thing that I need to be able to do is to have multiple revenue streams that, if one flags, then there are others that are going to pick up the slack and that kind of thing. And I just haven't built that out. So it's, it's a learning curve, just like everything. And so I'm trying. I mean, yeah, am I still writing fiction? I have a novel that's been finished since 2018. I just need to go through like one last cleanup draft, but I think I've decided like that I'm not gonna, I think I've decided that I'm not gonna work on that book anymore. I'm gonna write another book. It's a mystery, sort of like, I guess they call it like rural noir now. So I'm gonna write another book in that world and sort of go from there. I just, again, organization wise, haven't gotten myself to the place where, I do my best writing work in the morning. If I can get myself up in the morning and give myself even just 30 minutes to sit down and really be focused on writing, then I can do a lot of work. But, my schedule, this is one thing that I didn't expect, but, I probably should have, going from having a full-time job, 9 to 5, and doing the YouTube thing, is that with the full-time job, even if you don't have, like, I didn't have a boss who like watched my every move and told me everything to do. I ran my department, so I knew what had to happen, and we just sort of worked toward making those things happen. But it was all within a very specific time frame. So I used to write at lunch. I just take an hour, eat my lunch at my desk, and then write for 45 minutes. And then from there, I would create stuff. But I kind of got out of that habit. And then when I went full time on YouTube, it just didn't have that same sort of fence posts on either side of that day. Like, I think I got more stuff done on YouTube when I didn't have a job, because I would just come home and I would make a video, and whatever I was able to make in the time that I had to make the video was the video. And I didn't spend as much time thinking about it. And so there's probably some lesson to learn in there. I don't know that I've learned it, but there is a lesson in there. I need to value my time more and figure out how to make it work. So not only do I want to get started on that new book, but I've also got 2 or 3 records worth of music to record that I haven't, and I want to do that. And, CNY Photos says, had COVID myself back in November. Thankfully, it was easy for me, and I'm 61. Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to sound like alarmist or overly dramatic or anything, but for me, like, being over 50 and getting sick and staying sick is one of those things that sort of, puts in my head the idea that, like, okay, this all, like, my ability to do these things the way that I used to do them, maybe has like a shorter shelf life than it did, well, before. So if I have less time and I'm getting no work done, then how do then how do I change that? How do I fix that and make it so I'm doing the stuff that I want to do? Digital slang in the house. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Good to see you as well. Yeah, I'm just, just keeping on, trying to trying to not be sick. And honestly, I don't feel like I haven't had to take any kind of over-the-counter medicines or anything like that. I'm on the second course of antibiotics. That seems to have knocked out whatever was left, but I still have those little moments where I'm just like super tired. And somebody mentioned in the comments of the video that I put out yesterday about just what I've been dealing with, about Physics Girl, who is somebody that I never watched her videos, but I just kind of knew who she was. Oh, John Redinger in the house. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Yeah. I guess, and so, thinking about this long COVID thing, and somebody was like, yeah, the Physics Girl, she's in bad shape. And I went and watched a video, just kind of like an update video on her health. And yeah, I guess she went from long COVID to some kind of like chronic fatigue thing and is in just really, really bad shape. And that's scary stuff. That's scary stuff. I mean, but I guess that's the life that we live at this point. I mean, I hope she is getting better or will get better. But yeah, it's just like a fact of life that wasn't a fact of life 3 years ago, right? Larry says he had COVID during lockdown, took out sense of smell, came back after a month or so, only about 70% of what it was. I used to have Wolverine level sense of smell. Small price, I guess. Yeah, but well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I can't remember something that was so ubiquitous as COVID that had so many long-term effects on people who got it. And it's not just one thing. It's, for you, it's a sense of smell, and some people lose their sense of taste, and it takes a long time to come back, even a little bit. And then, this long COVID thing, bringing on other health issues that compound it. Like, it's definitely like I don't know. I wasn't alive in 1919, so I don't know like how the flu pandemic changed the lifestyle and our relationship with our health. I don't know how it impacted those things. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's like long-term effects on how we all live, like how our health is impacted by this thing in a way that, like, we used to get colds and they would come and they would go, and there would be no like long-lasting impact, or we would get the flu, or we would get the flu shot and we wouldn't get the flu, and it wouldn't stick around. But now it seems like the narrative is different. So I don't know. And it just sort of impacts your ability to be like, your ability to, I don't know. It's, for me, I no longer feel bulletproof. I mean, obviously nobody is, but it didn't used to be a part of my thought process. But now it definitely is part of my thought process. I'm drinking more water. I haven't had any ice cream for like 2 months. So the upside of being sick for this long is that I didn't have any appetite. So I think I've lost weight, which is definitely a necessary thing. And as soon as I feel better, I'm going to start exercising and all that kind of good stuff. But now I feel like I'm just talking about myself. And nobody wants to hear me whinge on about myself. Eddie White says, been here since the Can You Trust days. Do what you feel passionate about, and some will follow you and some won't. But you'll find a new audience. Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate that. I mean, it's something that always feels kind of hard to do, but I mean, my big idea for that I'm going to test out this year is doing sort of at least once a week, but maybe 2 or 3 times a week, do kind of a 20-minute news style show with segments and do things like bring back Can You Trust as like part of that segment. I mean, the conversation that we had about AI today, boil that down to its essence, and that's like a Can You Trust AI segment, right? So I just feel like I want to get out of the sort of circular carousel of just product release schedules and talking about new products. Not only because I've done that enough at this point that I just want to do it differently, but also because, for myself, I'm trying to encourage myself not to spend as much money. And it's really hard to do. Like, if you want to talk about a product that you don't have any contacts with somebody to get that product in house, then you gotta spend the money. That's what I did with the Sonos stuff today. I'd love to have some kind of contact at Sonos, but when I looked today at who had released videos and who had not about the new Sonos speakers, the majority of the videos were from more sort of traditional journalistic entities like The Verge and Apple Insider, which I guess, but people who, these are more like sort of publications and not sort of I don't know what is somebody who's not connected to like a larger, just freelance, I guess. I don't know. So Sonos doesn't seem like the kind of company that sends out a ton of review units. So, I like talking about it, and I like listening to the things and figuring it out. So, I'll just do, yeah. But I want to talk about it in a way that like is both informational but also thoughtful, if that makes any sense. Like I don't just want to talk about the product. I want to talk about, somebody put it to me the other day this way, in how I approach making videos, and I hadn't thought about it this way, that it seems like when I make videos, I'm more concerned with the why than I am with the what. Like, and when you think about it, a lot of people make videos that are, lead with the what. This is what the product is. This is what it does. This is how much it costs. This is how it's new or different than the last product. And it's more informational. And I tend to go more toward the why would you want this, or why is it different, or why does it matter? And I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. But I do want to include more of the what, because I think some people want that. And if they get some why later on, then maybe that's good. But if I just do why, then maybe I'm limiting my potential audience, to Eddie's point, by doing that. But anyway, folks, it's been, an hour and 23 minutes, and I think I'm going to quit while the quitting's good, so I don't overextend myself, and go watch some TV or read a book. I'm reading this book right now called Constance. It's written by this guy, Matthew Fitzsimmons, who had written this sort of like spy novel series that I listened to the audiobooks of a couple of them, and they were pretty good, but they were just, they were kind of snack food reading. But this new book, Constance, is about like a near future thing. And so if you have Kindle Unlimited, Matthew Fitzsimmons' Constance, I'm enjoying the book so far. And it's available to read for free if you have the Kindle Unlimited. So that's part of what I'm going to do as I get ready to go to sleep tonight. So anyway, thanks guys for being here. I really do appreciate it. Once again, Jason, Painfully Honest Tech, Tech So Honest It Hurts, back again on fire for the YouTube. And and I'll be making a video and getting it out to you as soon as I can, starting tomorrow, about that Sonos stuff. And anyway, until the next time, I'm out.